One of my favorite things about Marvel Rivals is that the game does not stop you from doing really stupid things. Like, it will suggest things for you, sure, like the 2-2-2, the 2 tank, 2 support, 2 DPS, but that's about it. It just lets you kind of roll with it. So I was curious, which of these roles are the best by themselves? So I gathered up my Twitch chat and we did exactly that. All 6 tanks versus all 6 supports versus all 6 DPS. And the results were a little bit surprising, as cliche as that might sound. So I want to start from the bottom and work my way to the top. Let's start with the tanks. The tanks were disappointingly bad. I did not expect the tanks to suffer as bad as they did. I figured with 6 of us, we could kind of bully points. Now, not as effectively as having a full support or DPS lineup alongside us, sure, but you know, like, we got a lot of big meaty boys on our team, right? Surely we can get something done. No, not at all. In fact, this was painful. A combination of poor DPS and poor range, coupled with the fact that we have absolutely no self-sustain of our own, made it to where we were just sitting ducks. Big, just hogs for us to be chewed up, destroyed, shot. I don't know what I'm saying, and served over a Christmas dinner and ham. I don't know what I'm saying. But yeah, the tanks, absolutely terrible. I really had higher hopes for them. I think the biggest thing here is that some of the other roles have that smaller health pool, which means that they're more forward with their abilities, whereas tanks make heavier use of just simply having that massive health pool, and without anything to replenish that, and no, not even health packs will work, because health packs will only really heal you for about 300 health, 150 at burst initially, and then for about 150 following that, assuming you don't take damage. That's obviously half the tank's health pool, so it just simply did not get the job done. Now, with all of these roles, of course, we are not the greatest players of all time. Maybe some super coordinated, super cracked team could make something like this happen, but we're averagely skilled. We're all okay at the video game, and probably most of you are too. I'm not expecting Flats to be watching something like this. So yeah, tempered expectations, of course, but no, the tanks were hot garbage. I don't really have any other information to put here. Like, at this point, I'm filling for time. Got to hit that sweet 8-minute mark, right? Barriers you would have expected to have some kind of value into the game at here too, but no, not even in the slightest. Tanks were massively disappointing, both on offense and on defense, and despite us running this experiment multiple times, they ultimately got nowhere. They were a little bit better on defense, but it only marginally so. Like, they were a 4 out of 10. Now, jumping up relatively drastically is the supports. I expected the supports to be the ones to ultimately take the cake for this weird competition that I've arbitrarily set for them. But no, the supports also didn't quite get any games under their belts. Again, we ran multiple games and not even one, but they were always so very close. So again, I think this could potentially be a matter of skill, who knows, but the supports didn't quite close it out. The big thing for the supports are twofold. First and foremost, they lack immediacy with their ultimates. A lot of their ultimates, like, you know, everyone loves Jeff the Shark, right? That sort of being an exemption to the rule, not the rule itself. They don't have any ability to really deal with people, right? Like, they don't have any way of showing force themselves. And of course, that extends over to their DPS. The support's DPS is significantly better than the tanks. Maybe I'm biased, maybe I was playing Rocket, but the DPS felt so much better. We were actually able to put down targets and even able to, in some capacity, put down tanks. We also had some mobility tools that were a little bit more available to us, something that, yes, is present with the tanks, but a lot more so on the supports to deal with backlines and to deal with the amount of healing that was being thrown at their enemy tanks and such. The ultimates overall were a little bit better at just sort of digging in and holding our ground too, whereas something like the tanks are much more focused on team support and team play, either as an initiation tool or as a general crowd control tool. Just simply getting a bonus to damage just simply demands us to hit our shots better. If we get a bunch of healing, that means we can be a little stupid and dive backlines. It was so much more efficient. I feel like if the developers of Marvel Rivals aren't careful, I could easily see like a 5 or even maybe a 6 stack of supports. They are just shy of being amazing. But now, of course, dear viewer, we go to the ultimates, the role that ultimately took the cake. And the one that surprised me, this was legitimately at the bottom of my list. Like when I was talking to my chat when we were getting this all set up, I was telling them the DPSs are not going to do it. Like the supports, maybe, the tanks, maybe, DPSs, not a shot. Not a shot in hell. But I'll be damned, the DPSs actually did really good. And I want to talk about why. So first, something we already talked about with the tanks is that their healing by themselves is much better. There are things that can give you a little bit of health, and the value that a DPS gets out of 1 point of health is much higher than both the tanks and the supports. The supports are sort of balanced around being able to heal themselves. The tanks are balanced around other things healing them, whereas the DPS is, yeah, they'll be healed and such, but getting any healing at all feels a lot more valuable overall to them than the other two. And on top of that, something that the supports didn't have to deal with, but something the tanks struggled with, is the health packs. Health packs are extremely strong in Marvel Rivals. Like I said, it's like 300 total health with 150 initial bursts, something like that. And that healing, like we already mentioned, means a lot more to the DPSs, and more so, there was no competition for those packs. Nobody was going out and trying to get these packs. It was pretty much just our team. I played a very frontline character. I played Psylocke, and I was just sort of weaving in and out of combat. Most importantly, because DPS ultimately gets and secures kills, we could focus down their supports in the back line, whether that be with a sniper or something like an assassination type character like the one I'm playing, or just even basic damage and team fire. We could take out their long-term sustain and ultimately just simply snowball the fight over. Snowballing in this game is a must for understanding strategy. As soon as you get that man down, it absolutely is your time to go in. Supports can pop their ults to try to slow it down, but if you can get just a handful of kills, you roll that team fight as best as you possibly can, and that's absolutely what the DPS took advantage of. Now I want to talk about one last thing. What I think this means for the overall meta. I'm not a pro player. I'm not even close to a pro player. But one thing that I think is interesting with these findings is I could absolutely see a world where you simply pick one support, one tank, 4 DPS. Legitimately, if the players are that good, or if the team is uncoordinated. I know that's a big difference, a big leap between those two, right? But I think that might just work. Will that ultimately be the team comp? Probably not. TDTwo is well established, and I'm sure the pros have a much better handle of the scene overall, the competitive scene overall. But I legitimately feel like just like a lot of DPS is not the worst thing. Obviously, you're going to need a really, really skilled support, or just your team playing a little bit more cautiously to make it happen, but it could legitimately work. So next time you're in a big group and you see a bunch of DPSs, don't immediately jump on and start flaming your teammates. Give it a shot. I would just say, be willing to switch yourself and such, right? Hey, if you enjoyed this, let me know with the sub. Maybe we'll do some more Marvel Rival stuff. In the meantime, follow us on Twitch. Bless your faces. Deuces.